Hello everybody, I hope you're enjoying Domo Palooza. I look forward to introducing you to FieldAware and our journey through Domo. So firstly, our session is all about up and to the right. That was the mantra for our program. We initiated a change management program, a strategic change within our organization, and we used Domo as the catalyst for that change, enabling us to make steady progress through our journey. I'm Steve Mason, I'm the COO of FieldAware. And I've been in this field service industry for over 14 years. I've been at FieldAware since 2016, and I had the honor of leading the change management program and led the team. And through the coming 45 minutes, I look forward to sharing that team's success, the lessons that we learnt. Hopefully you'll gain some insights into how we were successful, what didn't quite work as we expected, but what you can apply to your own projects. Quick run through on the agenda. So the first thing will be to introduce you to FieldAware so you have some context of our organization and the change program that we underwent. We'll talk a little bit about the beginning. So how did we get to where we got to through growth and why we wanted to change. We'll talk about our change management program and the principles we put in place, the initiatives that we took, and the results that we delivered. We'll talk about some creativity and show examples of the types of data visualization that we achieved through Domo and how that improved the business. We'll share some lessons learnt, though a lot of those will happen through the presentation, but we'll just recap on some key principal ones. And then finally, we'll talk about how we then took the next step, which was to embed Domo inside of our field service management application so that we could deliver greater value to our customers, enabling them to better run their business. So what is field service management? First of all, it's organizations which are delivering service to their customers where that service is delivered remotely. So they may be installing equipment, maintaining the equipment, doing inspections, but the key thing is that they have their technicians or contractors traveling around from location to location performing that work. We are a born in the cloud type company founded in 2011, so it's a complete multi-tenant architecture. And we have over 450 customers with 11,000 full users around the world. When our customers are using our application, they're really using it in three ways. So firstly, the back office, which is the web applications, that's where planners and dispatchers are creating work, they're enriching work, they're using our optimization engine to schedule that in a highly efficient way, and then they're dispatching out to the technicians. The next thing is the technicians that are in the field, they're accessing that work through native mobile applications on iOS and Android. On that work, it has everything they need to do to perform those activities at the customer site. So the sequence of work that needs to be performed, so it can be consistently delivered. They can capture key information like evidence like photographs and signatures. They can record all the materials they use, barcode scanning, or just accessing the micro database of materials. And then finally, all that work is then debriefed automatically into the web application. And then the third way of accessing the system is via an API. And so we interact with the customer's ERP or CRM or asset management systems where we are drawing in work and we're enriching it and then we're returning updates back to the customer. We're very well regarded in the industry. We've been on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the past 4 years. Our niche is that we have a rapid time to value where we can be implemented faster than any other provider in the Magic Quadrant, which means customers get immense value from our application very quickly. And then we receive other rewards on a regular basis through our usability and the creativity that our customers are able to benefit when they're driving their business forward. Through our application and the way that we've embedded Domo in our solution, our customers are able to gain great intelligence around how they're performing against their customers' needs. So how they're performing against their SLA commitments, how they are able to cross-sell and upsell revenue, and so grow ultimately their top line and reduce churn. Likewise, they're able to understand what's happening within their business so that they can ensure that they are taking actions to reduce cost and improve productivity. And so they have the benefit of increasing revenue, reducing costs, and increasing margins. So our journey. Well, it began in 2018. We had grown since 2011, really rapid growth both in terms of customers, success in the market, but also organization. We had a dispersed geography, so we had the development teams based out of Dublin, we had our commercial operations based out of Plano in Texas, and everything that we used was in the cloud. And it meant over time, because we were focused on the operational execution, we'd grown by using cloud systems which were whilst they may be functionally connected, the data was not connected. So whenever we were having meetings, people were presenting the data just from their application and not from a system-wide perspective. Our departments, because we were dispersed, we were using 4 versions of Slack, so not everybody could communicate in real time with everybody else, which was another barrier to to performance. And the net result of all of that was that we used, high levels of energy and passion to get things done, which meant that there was often a high degree of a number of escalations that were going on in the business, making sure that we were doing the right thing for the customer, but we were very reactive because we just didn't have the data to be planning effectively. Just a quick insight into the types of data that we had. As you can see, we used NetSuite as our ERP system, Marketo as our marketing engine, Jira within engineering. So lots of different applications, lots of different sources of critical data, but unfortunately all locked away in their own applications and departments. So why did we change? Well, there was a couple of things. Well, firstly, there was a level of organizational maturity where, as a leadership team, we were looking to the future and looking to our plans and determining that we needed to strengthen the organization and become much more programmatic in the way that we approached our business. In conjunction with that, we were looking at our markets and which markets we wanted to focus on for the next phase of our growth. We had grown very horizontally in the industry. Our applications were being used in 94 different industry sectors, so a very successful application. However, as we looked forward, we wanted to focus on a narrow set of the market from an outbound perspective. And so we did analysis and we identified that the mid-size organizations, so companies with 40 to 500 field technicians that were very asset orientated, so maintaining complex pieces of equipment, more complex workflows, that was an area that really played naturally to the strengths of our application, and that's where we were going to double down on our focus. So whilst we did all our analysis on our business strategy execution, we also did the analysis of what was going to prevent us, what were the barriers that were going to stop us from growth. And a key part of that was a lack of data transparency within the organizations. It was very difficult to make decisions. And in effect, if you don't have the data to back up your decision, you're really a person with an opinion. And so we had management meetings with very weak data, and so we had lots of opinions. Some of them were correct, some of them were not, but we recognized that we had to address that. Well, the first thing we did was we established a change management program. We looked at creating a sense of urgency within the organization. We had grown successfully. We were going to embark on a strategy of change. So why did we have to change, a lot of our underlying processes, and way of working? And we focused people on the fact that we believed a narrow time to capture market, which was critical. So we created a sense of urgency of why we needed to change. Within our overall vision of moving into a new market, we then identified a sort of vision for this program, and that was to become a unified data-driven organization. And so that, from the program perspective, was the program's vision within our companies of change. And then there were different ways that we could have approached this data change. And we chose to trust our employees. We chose that, with the exception of some financial data, all employees should be able to see all data across all departments. That meant that if you're a developer, you could look at the pipeline, sales pipeline, you could look at customer records, you could look at service records. If you were in sales, you could understand what was happening with projects being deployed, what was happening in the development roadmap, and what was happening in the marketing pipeline. So immense transparency was important for us as a company. And that was about really empowering people, because if people understood how everybody else was working, and what their deliverables were, it made it much easier to work with them, much easier to understand what was delaying them from servicing your need, and then you could work with them to try and find different ways of getting around that requirement. So that was critical. The next key thing was that we set 3 KBRs. So those are key business requirements. And for us, our requirements were that we wanted from our customers, we wanted to reduce churn and increase customer satisfaction. From a revenue perspective, we wanted to grow our revenue up and to the right, and we wanted to grow our revenue at an increased level within our target market sectors. And then from an innovation perspective, we wanted to be innovating our platform to address the needs of the target market that we were pursuing. By setting those 3 KBRs, it enabled us then to align our KPIs within the department. So if our KPIs didn't map to one of those KBRs, then it was either something we shouldn't be doing or we weren't aligned correctly. So we had alignment within the organization. And then we wrapped around that the mantra of up and to the right. Everything we were doing, we were measuring in terms of increased progress and up and to the right. So then within execution, first of all, we established a change team, and it was cross-functional, had some core people within the team, and then we had sub-tiger teams that were pulled in from different stages depending on where we were within the project. We set a timeline, and so the timeline was quite detailed in the phase that we were operating in, but then the subsequent timelines were quite aspirational. And that's because we quite quickly learned that by gaining transparency of data, it enabled us to gain an understanding of the business, and that significantly influenced where we went next within the organization. So we didn't try to be too prescriptive through the whole plan, but we were very detailed at each phase. The most important phase was establishing a like-for-like situation within the business, i.e. that the reports that people were dependent on today from their own systems, that those were accessible and usable within Domo. And once we established that, we changed the whole program and we changed the philosophy about how we did the change. And the key bit for that was that we had developed learning, so people had learned how to build their reports within Domo, so we had a degree of understanding within the organization. So we then started to accelerate that and get excitement around that, and we had challenges. So we had the customer success team competitions in terms of how they could create reports to better understand customer performance and use of the system. We had hackathons, we had common business problems, and people would then use Domo to try and create solutions, visualization of data. So got real buzz going around it. The other key thing that we did was that once we got for like, was that we made Domo the only way in which you could communicate around data within the organization. So if you went to a meeting and you were talking about a performance update, you had to be showing the data within Domo and using Domo cards. And if the data didn't exist within Domo, wasn't in Domo, it didn't exist. So you couldn't use it in the meeting. Now, it didn't remove the responsibility of the person to be providing accurate data. It didn't remove their accountability for running their department, but it forced them to go back into their process and to correct the process so they were collecting the correct data. And that was part of our initiative, was to improve our value chain, all those operating procedures and the way the departments worked. So that enabled us to create transparency within the organization, and it very quickly got to the point where people moved from having department-based data cards to cross-department data cards, and merging key elements that enabled them to have a better understanding of how the business was performing and how their department was performing. And then we continued that further. So all of our meetings, so quarterly business reviews, all the sales reviews the account reviews that were happening, every review and management meeting had to be using Domo, not PowerPoint and not Excel. It may seem extreme, but in the beginning it was critical. It was critical to our program because we had to get people to keep improving the data that was being captured and keep streamlining the process. And then ultimately we got to the point where we were able to expose the board to Domo. And so the board was able to look at our business outside of the board review meetings. They could see the pipeline, they could see the sales performance, any data they want to see, they could see. So that created transparency. So you had transparency from salespeople and engineers right the way through to the board. The next thing that we did was that we moved the dispersed artifacts which were critical to the organization from different locations. So from OneDrive, SharePoint, on people's hard drives, because how critical information gets dispersed. And we started to collate it. So if you needed marketing collateral, you would be able to get it from the marketing sector within Domo. If you needed a partner contract, you wouldn't go to legal, you would go to legal's part of Domo and get the latest published contract. And we became a SOC 2 compliant company in this journey, and all of our operating procedures were open and transparent, and the performance data was open and transparent within Domo. And then finally, if you wanted to communicate with some key departments, such as open an IT ticket, put a request on HR, we created pages within Domo where you'd be able to do that and initiate it. And it was all around driving people into Domo, getting them used to living within the application. And then finally, we removed those 4 versions of Slack and we went to just using Domo. So now everybody was connected within one chat system, was able to communicate and able to communicate around the cards in the business. So what performance and impact did it have on our performance and innovation? Well, firstly, as I've been outlining, we were able to improve our value chain as part of our strategy by making sure that we're improving our data and streamlining our operations. From a product innovation perspective, we had a huge number of, for example, feature requests within Jira, service tickets, etc. By being able to bring those together into one environment and being able to analyze and collate that data, it enabled product management to start to understand what innovation was necessary within the product, where there was strong demand, so heat map based demand, where there were challenges in usability of use cases so that we could improve those environments. We also brought market data in and merged that with market data and sales performance data so that we could understand from a growth perspective what the market potential was and what the impact of, for example, not having functionality was having on our past sales performance. So great insights that was impossible to gain before. And then from a product adoption perspective, we were able to understand the utilization of our applications by different industry verticals. And we were also, when we released features, we were able to understand what the uptake of those features and capabilities were. And if they were below what we expected, it enabled the CSMs to reach out, talk to customers, and we could understand, was it a communications issue, or was it something that was missing in the use case where the usability needed to be improved to get higher adoption. And then the key thing of all of that is this closed loop concept. And that's where the information from Domo enabled us as an organization to feed that back into our strategy, to refine our strategy and refine our value proposition. So all the time we were able to improve and strengthen our organization as we move forward. And then finally, the last thing is that you need to consolidate it and make sure that you continue to operate in a way where people are using information within Domo, that the information is correct, and it is the basis of which you make decisions. It changes the organizational culture in terms of being asking data-orientated questions. Whenever you start to encounter a problem or a change of initiative, the first question would be, is what data do I need to understand? What do I need to understand? What data do I need to understand it? Where's that data going to come from? Who's going to be using it? What decisions are they going to be making? And all of those things is a different way of thinking, but that when you're in that discipline, you move very quickly. And then data-driven decisions. So not opinion-based, but data-driven decisions. And it's not about procrastination. It is about removal of procrastination, because you're able to bring data, you can challenge the data, but you can bring data into the decision-making process, which enables you to move forward as an organization. And so that was critical to increasing speed of execution. Trust. Now, we built over 1,700 cards. 400 of those are artifact cards, so 1,200 transactional cards. And as we progress through building those cards, you then circle back and determine which are the critical ones that you need to run your business. And we found that we had between 40 and 60 cards that were really critical, that we regularly made decisions from. And so for those cards, we certified those cards so that people could trust the data, and they were annotated so that people understood what the cards and the data meant. And then finally, you just have to commit and live within it and accept that it is a journey, not a destination. So let's have a look at some examples. So if you remember back in the beginning, in 2018 BD, that's before Domo, we were an data island orientated company. Fast forward to today in 21 AD, after Domo, this is our data warehouse, Domo data warehouse. And if you've not looked in that environment, what this is showing is that we have 34 data sources where Domo is drawing in data, and we're amalgamating that to create our reporting capabilities. These green lines indicate real-time data that's being transferred within the organization. An example. So first of all, we looked at our lead process. Now, back in 2018, it was taking us 30 hours on average from a lead being offered up to FieldAware and a business development person responding to that. Now, that was because a set of processes that were in place, there were manual processes, there were different technologies, different transfer of data. By exposing that, what we're able to do is streamline the process, streamline the technology, and now we're at sort of 0.4 of an hour to be able to respond from a lead coming in to being actioned. And actions means that somebody's working on it, they're adding data within our NetSuite system. Dry data. Now, in our business process, we use international exchange rates at different phases of our process. And so rather than trusting people to go and grab that data from the internet and it's being updated, we consolidate that information, make it available in an easily to consumable format within our processes. Creativity, and making things simple. So just a quick orientation, as a SaaS company, we are constantly renewing customers. And so at the beginning of the quarter, what this card is showing you, at the beginning of the quarter, this sort of beige color represents the book of renewals. So this is all of the renewals that need to be conducted through the quarter. The green bars indicate those contracts which have been successfully renewed. The slight pink and then the red indicates with pink what we believe will be downsells, and the red is what are non-renewals. This card is very easy to consume, and as it builds up through the quarter, it's very easy for everybody to understand what's happening. But to create this card required a great deal of ingenuity and using the full power of Domo because of the way that our ERP system was set up. So firstly, this section here is around how we extract the year before. So we go back one more year and we validate what the original amount was and then the sales order for a year ago, which creates a validated start point for the renewal value. What we're then doing is we're comparing then the renewal existing customer agreement with what the proposed renewal is, so that we can strip out things like additional users, which then get accounted as a net new ACV, because we're interested in the core renewal element of that. And then finally, what we're doing is that we are regularly updating that process so that the chart is kept up to date on a daily basis. And so that way we have something which is a very powerful business tool by everybody in the organization, and they're masked from the complexity. Other examples are where we analyze the performance of our system and its API, and we're able to project out utilization, so that helps our platform team, DevOps team. Then with this particular card, it shows a very powerful change process. So this is the number of bugs that were in the system back in 2018 when we embarked on that program. And this is how they are now in 2015. So from 71 in the peak to 5 as it is now. And that's attributed through 3 or 4 key initiatives. One, close alignment through data between customer service, CSM, development team, and product management, so that we're able to identify very quickly, prioritize, categorize, and resolve bugs. The second thing is the way that we were developing our specifications, we were very internally focused in terms of what requirements were, and we weren't gathering as much market data as we needed. So therefore, when we launched our applications, we were getting a lot of feedback, which was being in terms of other capabilities that people wanted to see in the system, which were being recorded as bugs, and they were then being fixed. So we were refining our application that way. Having real transparency and changed our processes has had a dramatic impact on the development environment, which means that there's less interruptions and much more progress is being made. And there's a mantra within product management, which is measure twice, cut once, and making sure that we're really validating on our feature requirements. Engineering. So we said at the beginning about transparency. So our engineering development plans are exposed to everybody. So everybody understands where features are in terms of being developed and the progress that is being made for GA. So open transparency. We talked about platform utilization earlier. So now we're able to understand by industry sector, so data from our ERP system merged with data from our platform, aggregated data which is normalized, that understands where different industry sectors are using our application and by what volume, and that helps us in terms of product management, decisions and planning. Then we talked about feature utilization. So when we release new features, we want to understand what the uptake of the features are. And if the feature uptake is low, then the CSM's outreach and we understand, is it due to a lack of awareness or is it due to a problem in the use case, in which case it feeds back to product management. And we're able to draw that data from our ERP as well as from our platform. Summarizing really on some of the gains and benefits that and lessons learned. And this is really the biggest lesson from us, is that Domo enabled us to expand the art of the possible. And in that journey, we quite quickly recognized that really everybody is really conditioned by the environment that we work in. And so we've all grown up using, and through business, using Excel and SQL and databases, which are very flat structures. And so that contains people's thinking. We try to encourage people to just draw what they expected to see on the graph on paper or on PowerPoint. And that really wasn't getting us very far. So what we decided to do was to take the initiative and to commit to overbuild. And so we would ask people to describe what they wanted to, what the outcomes were. All those data-driven discussions, we would have those with people, and then we would propose back what the reports would look like. And that enabled people to understand what they were really looking for and move to the next step. And so through an iterative process, we were able to expand their horizons, get them to think out of the box, and that investment then enabled them in the future to come back and be very clear on what they wanted, and so speed up that process. So be prepared to invest in that. The consolidation of the certified cards, when you expand up, you do need to go back to the core, and so certification for us was a great way of differentiating between card structures to run our business. Folding it back into the value chain was so important, and using that, if it's not in Domo, it doesn't exist type mantra to get people to tidy up their processes and improve things was critical. And then finally, just being clear with everybody that, clarity is a point of action. And so using data to get clarity enables you to move forward much faster. And that was been hugely successful for us. And then from an organizational perspective, we have enabled us to move up and to the right. The transparency created unity within the organization, and then unity leads to collaboration. The organizational KPIs kept us going in the right direction and made sure that our KPIs were linked to them. And so that kept us on the right move. And then the results enabled us to reduce the escalations that were happening, which meant that we were much more productive and planned and moving forward. That enabled us to improve our performance and our productivity. Improving our performance and our productivity enabled us to be more innovative in the way that we approach solutions and to build those in. It strengthened our relationships with our customers and was the growth. So we were on that trajectory, but on reflection, Domo enabled us to leverage the data that enabled us to be successful in that journey. So now let's talk a little bit about FieldAware as a platform and how we embedded Domo to bring the benefits that we gained as a company to our customers and their use of FieldAware and the difference it makes within their business. What made us very successful is because we have a skeletal data structure. So what that means is that the core application has a limited core set of data fields that come with it. And then we have tools that enable our customers to very quickly model out the data that they need within their operations so that the application fits their business model. And that's fantastic, but it comes with a price, it comes with a challenge, and that is that it's really difficult to build standard reporting capabilities when you don't know the custom data field structure that's going to be set up. With Domo, we were able to leverage Domo's tools to be able to do that. So we built a very sophisticated integration to enable us to get the data into the correct format so that we could offer standard cards that could accommodate the potential of custom fields in certain areas of the business. So that enabled us to create a standard set of reporting for customers that included their custom fields, which was critical. Then we have the next phase, which is Report Builder, which we enable our customers to then build their own business reports to really personalizing their management information to meet their needs, leveraging all of the data that's available within FieldAware, all of that field service data. And then finally, Insights Professional, which is full Domo. And that's where customers can take the full Domo application and they can incorporate data from multiple environments and create a 360-degree view of their entire service business and really drive their business forward. So we have those three levels of empowerment for our customers. So just a few examples of problems that we've solved. So within the field service industry, first-time fix rates are really important. And so a first-time fix rate is when I have to go to site and do a piece of work and complete it in one visit. If I can't, it means I have to go back one or multiple times. So each time I go back to visit that customer, perform that service, is extra travel, extra hours, it's delayed resolution for the customer, it's increased cost to the business for all of those unnecessary visits, plus those technicians can't be working on other problems. So there's a double hit to the organization. So providing accuracy about that information is key. The other area is that once you divide the first-time fixes as successful, you need to be able to identify what are the underlying causes of the repeat visits. So nesting cards is critical to helping people understand how to resolve complex problems. Forecasting capabilities, so being able to look at preventative maintenance. So preventative maintenance is regular visits to perform activities. So being able to compare your historical data against your projected visits. And that enables organizations to start to then understand, how should I be planning my work? Do I have enough resources? Do I need to start thinking about contractors? Do I need to start changing my schedule of activity? So it's empowering people to be able to look forward. And then finally, how do you improve the way that you increase your individual employee productivity? And if you can imagine traveling around, every time somebody's driving between sites, that's unproductive time. It's also using, it has a higher carbon impact as well as cost. And so our optimization engine enables people to gain greater efficiency by reducing travel time by clustering work and meeting SLAs, but you need to be able to report on that, make decisions on that, and so you need to expose that data to customers. So now we're finally in summary of our journey. So first of all, Domo underpinned our strategic change, and as I outlined earlier, was a key factor in our success. We did that by establishing a vision and a sense of urgency and getting the whole organization aligned to that change. We established that like-for-like plateau moment, the point of which we were able to then move or step out of the old world into the new world, into Domo, and from then start to build into the future. So we refrained from innovating until we got to that point and the organization could move together. And in doing so, we just completely switched to Domo. As we outlined, we lived in Domo, we worked in Domo, we innovate within Domo. And that empowered us as an organization to both innovate and continue to move forward. And then most critical and fundamental of all, the information created that closed loop of data that enabled us to refine our strategy and improve our value chains. And through that set of combination of things, we were able to achieve our project, and we continue to grow now. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you found this really interesting and that there are some things that you can take away from this session. I enjoyed preparing it and I enjoyed sharing our story with you and the success which ultimately belongs to the team that performed that work. And I look forward to visiting other sessions in Domo and enjoying the rest of Domopalooza. Thank you very much. I'm Steve Mason. Thank you.